Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric in our long-running series, the Unported playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Aliens, released in 1990 by Konami, and it is based on the movie of the same name. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link in the description as well. But I absolutely love Aliens from Konami, and it's one of those games that I never hear talked about because Capcom released Alien vs. Predator, another unported arcade game, and that's definitely the Aliens game that everyone seems to remember as far as arcade games are concerned. And that makes perfect sense because that game is a spectacular 10 out of 10 effort, but Aliens from Konami is probably a 9.5 out of 10. And if you've never played Alien vs. Predator, this game is very similar to it, although it did come out first. It's your standard run-and-gun 2D arcade action game, and I absolutely love everything it's doing because it is intense from the first moment. You'll see I took my first death there. I will say this game is extremely difficult, and if you're actually pumping quarters into the machine, it's going to probably take you $20 to $30 just to beat this game. Now, of course, I'm not using quarters here, so it doesn't matter whatsoever, but I will say that this game puts a lot of challenge up at the normal difficulty. But right off the top, I just love how it looks. It's got that classic Konami's color to it. But what I really like about the game is it does mix up the action. Sometimes you're going to be going left to right or right to left in stages, but other times the camera is going to pivot. It's going to be more of a third person, pseudo top-down shooter. And you have this first boss here that's got some really nice patterns that almost look shmup-like. And that's the thing. A lot of the bosses in this game are going to be very pattern recognition based. And once you understand how to avoid their attacks, it almost becomes a free kill. So it's a really fun game that you can get a lot better at as time goes on. But in between each stage, you get these first-person, well, more like third-person, but it feels first-person to me, driving action stages where the aliens are running at you and you need to shoot them before they hit your vehicle or crawl up. And it does a really good job of mixing everything up because once you get done with a level going left to right shooting everything, you get to do something slightly different. And that's a really nice benefit in arcade games because normally they kind of hang their hat on one particular mechanic. So it's nice that Aliens mixes things up, and it's even going to slow down the gameplay. On the beginning of Stage 2, we're going through these air vents, classic Aliens move, and we have to avoid the steam while also turning left and right to avoid attacks from both sides. It just slows down the pace of the game and makes it a little bit more dynamic, and you even get the radar showing you where the enemies are coming from, which is a really nice touch. Now, you'll see some aliens or zombies there in the vent as well. This game definitely has a lot of creative license with the Alien franchise. Now, I don't remember everything from Aliens, but there's going to be some zombies showing up later and some mutated spiders that I'm pretty sure weren't in the movie itself. But again, like when I mentioned how this game likes to change things up, now we're on an elevator ride going down, and we have aliens attacking from both sides, top and bottom as well, and they're going to start attacking the cables of the elevator, and if they manage to break them, you're going to take a death on the way down. So this feels a little bit slower, a little more deliberate, and really more tense. But of course, pretty much every beat 'em up or every running gun game seems to have an elevator sequence, Splatterhouse being the most famous in my opinion. But I feel like you couldn't make a game like this without having an elevator. And you'll see I'm starting to take some more attacks on that cable, and unfortunately it did snap, so I fall all the way to the bottom and take that death, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it's a fun mechanic as far as the game's concerned. Now, because this game is from 1990, it definitely still looks good in my opinion, but it uses a lot of very colorful colors, even though there's gore all over the place, and you have those, what look to be like zombies up top shooting a chain gun at you. Definitely some things that weren't in the Aliens movie, but I do like the kind of comedy gore that we get. I will say some of the mid-stage bosses take a little bit too long to beat. I cut about 45 seconds of a minute out of this battle. You need to basically stop him from rolling into a ball. But as good as this game plays, as great as it looks, it also sounds pretty legit fun. So go ahead and listen to the music for about 45 seconds, and I'll come back and tell you more why, if you've never heard of Aliens, it's definitely a game you want to play. But enjoy! For what the music is, it works really well for an Aliens game, and I love the sound effects of that giant mech just moving forward. And you do get some really fun vignettes here. You see all the different crew members strung up in that goo. Like I said, it's based on the Aliens movie, and there is a little story element in it, but honestly, it takes a ton of creative license, so you're not really going to need to worry about knowing anything about the movie if you've never seen it. But if you've never seen Alien or Aliens, definitely watch them because they are awesome movies. And I love that some of the enemies run out of the screen to get out of the way of the boss fight. They just basically decide, you know what, we're not actually going to fight you, we need to get out of the way. It's just a fun little graphical look there. But I do love the bosses as well. They're very unique and dynamic, and they get quite difficult. In this one, we need to worry about these tentacles coming out while these giant alien eggs are being shot at us. And once you understand how those tentacles move left and right, you can basically avoid them completely. I do an okay job at it, but honestly, like I said earlier, if you really get familiar with this game and start to learn the boss patterns, you could basically one credit continue this because the game happens the exact same way every single time you play it. It never really changes. It is locked. And then we get another sequence here, and we also have a little bit extra. We have these cases that we need to shoot out of our way. And it's really good sprite scaling, especially for 1990, and Konami wasn't super well known for sprite scaling, not like Sega and Taito were, so it's fun to see them doing it on their own arcade boards. It's a bummer this never got ported home, but it kind of makes sense. There was no system in 1990 that could have handled this, and by the time you get to the PlayStation 1 and Saturn era, this looked a little bit too old as something that you would probably want to see at home. It's possible they could have converted it to the Super Nintendo. It would have looked different, but this makes perfect sense as to why it never came home, and I'm sure the licenses involved are a little bit tricky as well, because maybe Konami only licensed the Aliens franchise for arcade games. But I even love the little graphical effects. We have this slight parallax scrolling of these different architectural features in the front of the screen. It really lends itself to feeling like a living, breathing ship, even if the ship is living with things that you don't want to be seeing. And this here, not exactly sure what that alien design is supposed to look like. I've got some feels on it. I'd say leave a comment in the description below and tell me what you think, but I'm sure YouTube would just block those comments. But if you look close enough, I think you'll be able to guess at what I'm referencing, or maybe more of a combination of two different things that I am mentioning. But I do love the mid-stage battles as well with bosses. Just when you feel like you're shooting a ton of aliens and it starts feeling slightly repetitive, the game gives you something different to look at and different to do, and that is really nice because the pacing of this game is quite excellent. And it's not the longest arcade game in the world, but it is action-packed from start to finish, so you're really going to feel like when you beat it, you've seen more than enough. Not in a bad way, just in an intense, I'm ready to do something different sort of way. And I like that the game can slow itself down. We get these aliens jumping through these windows, and the red ones, when you shoot, explode to have these alien worms on the ground. It is just a fun little extra sort of challenge that I really appreciate that they give you. And I'm not sure what's going on with these flying alien heads. I do not recall them from the movie, but it's been a bit since I've watched it. But I'm 99% sure they have nothing to do with the film itself. But if they do, leave me a comment below and tell me I'm wrong, because a lot of this I do from memory, and sometimes my memory isn't as good as I wish it could be. But I can't recommend enough you check out Aliens, especially if you like the movie franchise or run and gun games, because it is great. Now, if you want to pick this up, boards are not cheap. I saw one for sale for $400, and I don't know that I would recommend it at that price unless you love the franchise, because while it is a really good game, there's a ton of other games in that same price category as far as arcade PCBs are concerned that I would probably recommend picking up first, including games from Konami like The Simpsons or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But it emulates perfectly well. I'm playing this on MAME, and there's absolutely no issues. You can play it from start to finish, and I love how many sprites it's able to push around at the same time. I mean, you have dozens of aliens on screen, and it's running at a full 60 frames a second. There's a little strategy involved as well. You'll see here, if I shoot whatever those look like air ducts, but they must be boxes, those aliens will stop coming towards us and give us a little bit of an easier time. So the game isn't just a mindless action, it's also a slight bit of strategy, and I love these aliens here that increase in size as you shoot them more. But yeah, that's Aliens from Konami. It's an awesome run and gun game that definitely gets overshadowed by Capcom's Alien vs. Predator, and if you've played that game before but not this one, I highly recommend it. Short of that, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell always helps us out. We will have another Unported next Sunday, and the long play for this will be the Monday after next, and I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But yeah, if you want to shoot some aliens, if you want to play a 1990s arcade game that looks awesome, you could do a lot worse than Aliens. Short of that, I've taken another death, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.